Hello, hello, this is Eva coming to you once again from my super messy kitchen on Facebook Live. And I thought that I would conclude the pleasure tour in the same place that I started it, in my kitchen. And I have to confess to you right away something very personal, and that is Facebook Lives scare the hell out of me. Like, no matter how many times I do them, I'm still a nervous wreck and having a mini panic attack. And you might not be able to detect that in me, but that's true. So right now I'm taking a deep breath and I'm just gonna come to you as honestly and vulnerably as I can. Now, if you're new to this whole experiment of the pleasure tour, this is how it all came about. I was set to move into my dream house with my dream man and live my dream life. And in the very final hour, it all collapsed and caved in. And I found myself in a situation where my whole life vision, my whole life plan literally went up in flames. And I went into a crisis. I didn't know what to do. And I thought, here I am. I'm a sex and love educator. I'm a relationship and intimacy coach. And I'm going through hell in my own personal life regarding intimacy and relationships. So what does that make me? What does that mean? And I decided to use my crisis as a way of making meaning and creating value for other people, and as a way of embodying my own message. And so I took off on a road trip. I just felt like hitting the road and hitting the reset button and figuring out what to do with my life. You know, I wonder, like, have you ever had that experience where you had a plan in place and the universe had a different plan for you and life turned on a dime? I'd be curious to hear how you handled it and what you did. Hi, Bob. Hi, Zoe. So I decided to put myself under the microscope, to put myself in a laboratory and see, what does pleasure do to heal a broken heart? Can pleasure truly heal us? And I learned some really surprising things along the way. It's been a month and a half. And this video is going to include for you some of my own personal, very vulnerable, revealing insights of what happened and what I learned. And then I'm also going to go over what I've distilled as some of the most important practices and attitudes to adopt if you want to have more pleasure in your life. And these are some deep spiritual truths, so be prepared for some real substance and real juice. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to tell you the single most greatest pleasurable thing that I did and that I discovered along my journeys. So if you and I are new to each other, I'm a conscious sexuality educator, I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I'm an intimacy coach. And this is my mission, this is my passion, is embodying, practicing what I preach. So you can use me, hopefully, to bring more value and more depth and intimacy in your own life. And one of the surprising things that I found in my travels, I drove up the coast of California. A little bit of definition of what the pleasure tour is. I drove up the coast of California, really just like following my pleasure, just doing exactly what I wanted to do and seeing who I wanted to see and really letting my body and my insight and my intuition lead the way. And so, what I found in committing to doing these videos is that we really, really do have to confront our fears in order to grow. We have to get uncomfortable in order to shift and up-level our lives. And let me tell you, these Facebook Lives are really uncomfortable for me every single time I did one. I had to confront insecurities. I had to confront fears and all kinds of programming about being seen. And I feel like a stronger person because of it. It built my self-esteem, it built my sense of inner resource. And so I want to offer that to you. That really the practice of doing something scary every single day is going to change your life. The other thing I learned personally from the pleasure tour is that I have to stop hiding. And I think this is true for all of us, that in any way that you might be hiding your gifts, your genius, your skills, your passion, your love, it's time to stop. We are in a global situation where we cannot afford to hide anymore. And doing these videos did not allow me to hide. And it gave me like this sudden witness to myself. And when I watch them back, I can see where I'm not authentic. I can see where I'm forcing or where I'm dimming myself. And I'm not allowing myself to do that anymore. And I want to offer that same invitation to you to come out of hiding in whatever ways you might be diminishing your ability to feel love and to receive love, or success and prosperity and wealth and abundance. Come out of hiding and join me here and step up into your true genius. So some of the things I want to offer you about pleasure and how to feel more pleasure in your life. So I have this saying, okay, and it's to be more directed by your pleasure than by your pain. And what that means is to not make choices from your pain body, and to make choices that feel good in your body, that bring you happiness, that bring you joy. But there's one very important distinction that I want to make when I talk about pleasure, what I mean. And here we're going to launch into Eva Clay's tips on how to feel more pleasure. Okay. Number 1. I made notes for you. Look. Healing, not hedonism. There are different kinds of pleasure, okay? Most people, when I say pleasure, they think that I mean the hedonistic kind of like sexual pleasure, or an indulgent pleasure, food or drugs or some kind of play. And that's actually not what I mean. And I think it's becoming more and more important to define what pleasure means in our own life. When we indulge in a hedonistic pleasure, well, look at my hair. When we indulge in a hedonistic pleasure, now I'm not against hedonism, let me just make that disclaimer, but it's a different set of neurochemicals. It's actually a different condition in the body. It's scintillation, it's titillation, right? It's a rush of excitement. And I'm sure we've all had this experience of how that rush of excitement feels. And it's dopamine and adrenaline. And it's highly addictive and actually corrosive and toxic in the body over time. And it stresses the body. Versus healing pleasure. Now, healing pleasure is something that contributes to your wellness, something that contributes to your overall sense of power in the world. And if you are into this, give it a like or a heart and let me know you're there and you're into learning more about healing pleasure, because that's what I'm all about. When we engage in healing pleasure, it triggers a different set of chemicals in the body, okay? It triggers what I call the pleasure cocktail. It's an elixir of neurochemicals that work together synergistically to improve your immunity, to improve your sense of self and your confidence. It repairs tissue. It makes you stronger, healthier, wiser. And because of one particular neurochemical called nitric oxide I get really excited about, this neurochemical is actually responsible for transcendent spiritual awakening. It's also responsible for creating a condition in the brain and in the body where we can actually remove old beliefs and embed new beliefs. So healing kind of pleasure actually changes the way that you think and what you believe in. So examples of healing pleasure. I'd love to hear from you, like, what are some simple pleasures that you know bring you healing? Some of mine are sensual pleasures. And some of my favorite pleasures on the pleasure tour were things like feeling the wind in my hair, floating in a lake, eating very nourishing foods that made me feel more alive after I had eaten them. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are some things you do that you know are healing pleasures? Dancing, Zoe, absolutely. Dancing. was a big part of the pleasure tour. So while you're writing that, I also want to say something I noticed more than ever. Alma, playing in the ocean, absolutely, singing. I did a lot of singing on the pleasure tour, a lot, in my car, like hearing your favorite song, right? We are all driven to dopamine. We are all cracked out on scintillation. And this is because I believe of technology and social media and all of the quick rushes that we have in our life, the quick fixes, how available sex is everywhere we look. And it's really important to get out of that feedback loop and out of that addiction and actually nourish yourself. I did that on the pleasure tour. Next thing, I have another card for you. We must believe that we are worthy of pleasure. And what undercuts our pleasure is often a deep-seated sense of shame and a deep-seated sense of self-punishment or self-destruction. And our media reinforces this. So many aspects of our culture reinforces this. So if you want to feel more pleasure in your life, I really invite you to embrace a self-love practice. How do we do this? My favorite way, Terry, my favorite way of reminding myself constantly that I'm worthy of good things and of pleasure, look, my earrings, I'm going to take these off, is by doing good things for other people. Acts of altruism make us feel meaningful in the world. So I invite you to make a choice to be of service to somebody else at your soonest convenience. The other thing that helps to remind us that we are worthy of good things, and this leads me to the next card. Connection. We are all starving for connection. We are desperate for connection. And we are following these false gods of connection in our social media, and it's not serving us. Probably the most healing aspect of the pleasure tour were the connections. Hi Brad. So I, had deep quality time with friends that I love. And not only that, but I worked to really nourish and nurture those connections even more deeply. This brought me so much healing pleasure, I can't even tell you. And I want to offer a couple of suggestions for you on how to create connection and how to deepen connection. One of my favorite things to do, I'm just kind of making this up actually right now. One of my favorite things to do is to actually ask someone if they want to be friends. I've done this with lots of people. If you like someone, you like what they're doing, you like the way they roll, and it seems to align with your ideals, offer the invitation. We all want more friends. One of my favorite things for deepening your friendships is to make a vulnerable disclosure. Tell a friend how you really feel. Tell them what's really going on in your life. Tell them how you feel about them, how much you appreciate them. And I promise you, you're going to start inviting all kinds of good things into your life, including more pleasure. Connect. Okay. And get into community while you're at it. Not Facebook, not Instagram, not online chat forums. Real life. Get into community. Sit yourself in circle with a bunch of people you know or don't know and start asking people to be your friend. Next card. All right. Actually, I want to hear from you. What are some things that you have done to make more friends and to deepen the quality of your friendships? This is not a monologue. This is a dialogue. So let me know. What are you doing or what have you done to cultivate community and connection? All right. Next card. Ready? In order to feel pleasure, we must be willing to feel everything, including the pain. If we are wiping out some dimension of our emotional body, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We must stop resisting the temptation to check out on our feelings. And we must make it okay to embrace the heartbreak. I know I had to do that on the pleasure tour. In order to get to pleasure, I had to go through pain. And I spent a lot of days in pain and a lot of days crying. You know, and those might be the days that you didn't see, but they happened, and it's important. When we're in those places, I find the thing to do is connect, call a friend. And if you're a friend of mine that I called, there are probably many who are going to watch this. Just know that I love you. Be willing to feel everything. Next. In order to feel more pleasure, we must stop looking outside of ourselves for fulfillment. An oldie but a goodie. But you know what? We are doing it more than ever. I do it too. We all do it. There's so much distraction and noise in our world that's just competing for our attention and giving us that hit after hit after hit of dopamine. And you know what? Pleasure is not there. Pleasure doesn't live there. Pleasure is an inside job. And this is something I coach my clients around all the time, which is pleasure lives inside your perception. It lives inside your thinking. It lives inside your body. It lives inside your heart. So I invite you to spend some time turning within and actually mining the simple pleasures that are available to you in every single moment, including this one. And if you're watching live or watching the replay, just take a breath and tune in to what feels pleasurable to you right now. And it might be a happy, loving memory. It might be a song that comes to your mind. It might be the wiggle of your toes. Tuning in and giving that your attention is a way of inwardly sourcing more pleasure. Next. So much fun. This one might surprise you. Pleasure is a spiritual discipline. Shocker, huh? Here's why. When we have a spiritual discipline, it trains us to source our pleasure or our bliss or our ecstasy in a different way. It puts us in touch with our own spirit, with our own soul, with our own inner guidance and our own inner resource. This is healing pleasure, not hedonistic pleasure. And when I say have a spiritual discipline, I mean have a community of other people who are holding you accountable, who are rewarding you and celebrating you for showing up and for doing your spiritual work. How many of you out there have had this experience of having a spiritual discipline? I really would love for you to chime in. I know we have some incredible spiritual practitioners who are watching live right now. I can see your names. What do you do that brings you spiritual pleasure? I know for me, I love to chant and sing. I love to sing my prayers. I love to dance to God. I love to meditate. And I find that the more I engage in these practices, the more expansive and blissful and incredible and powerful I feel. And I definitely did that. Yeah, give me some hearts if you agree with that. Give it to me. Yes. I want to hear from you because I know that there are people watching out there that have never had that experience, have never had a spiritual discipline, or who might have but abandoned it long ago because they got distracted and they forgot. I want to invite you to come back to that. Come back to that. And however that looks for you, this is what I found on the pleasure tour. I love you. This is so fun. Next. Last one. Surrender control. This is the hardest one for me. You know what I want to do with this? Ah, I hate it. Surrender control. Are you fucking kidding me? Hell no. And you know what? It only brings me pain. One of the biggest lessons I learned on the pleasure tour was that the more I tried to control my life, tried to control other people and all of the circumstances around me, the more pain I felt. And when I was able to just freaking relax and let go and get into the flow, pleasure started to flow through my body. And it reminded me of this, this parallel, if you will, because, I teach sexuality. So when we tense, when we constrict and contract, sex doesn't feel as good, right? It's like it's stressful, actually. When we breathe and let go, let the energy flow through our body, let love flow through our hearts, then we open ourselves up to an existential dimension of pleasure beyond even what we can conceive on the earthly plane. We find divine pleasure in the flow. And one of the best teachers for me on the pleasure tour was water. Water. I found a lot of water. I floated in swimming pools. I floated in lakes. I went into the ocean and I just allowed the current to carry me. And it taught me how to flow, which is like not something I do well. You know, I'm not a flow kind of person, right? But when we let go, we can fully feel and surrender all of the gifts that are available. Yes, Sharon's saying, be like water. Big teacher for me. Be like water. Look, maybe you've had an experience like this, but my life was on a trajectory. I was on a path. And the universe just kind of said, no, you're not going that direction. You're going a different direction. And we're taking you by force. Like, you're not listening, Eva. We're taking you by force and we're shoving you this way. And sometimes we need to be surrendered like that. I find the best tool for letting go is the breath. And having trust that you are being guided. So I want to remind you that even right now as you're watching this moment, if you're like on your phone or you're at home or you're sitting at your laptop watching Facebook Live, you're being guided to watch this and that you were guided here for a reason. Trust it. Trust it. So, all right, I said a lot of things. Now, this leads me to the greatest pleasure of all times. Love. It's love. You guys, love is the greatest pleasure that we can possibly experience. And I had a lot of that on the pleasure tour, and it has healed me. Love of all things, love of friends, love of God, love of lovers, and especially love of self. So I invite you to breathe that in and to remember that love is available for you at all times, everywhere, and every moment. And we only need to remember that. So I'm so honored. Christina Marassi just joined. Christina was like, hello, my love. Christina Marassi, the Pleasure CEO, was like a major influencer for me on the Pleasure Tour. And I'm so honored that you're here, Christina. I love you so much. So with that said, I've said a lot. I can't wait to read all of your comments. And here's the deal. I want to stay connected. I want to keep talking about this. I have a lot more to offer you, a lot more to say about modern love and modern dating. One of my promises early in the Pleasure Tour series was that I want to reinvent what it means to connect in the 21st century. I want to like rewrite the script for how we love, and I'm going to do it in my own life, and I'm going to bring you with me as I do it. So let's stay connected, my beloveds. You can find me and more information at evaclay.com. Drop me a line and let me know what you think of this. And I just want to say I love you so much, and I'm so grateful and honored to have shared this whole trip with you. What a fucking ride. Blessings, and live your life with pleasure. I love you. Bye.